Alright, YouTube. As you guys know, Yelli has been out for about 12 hours as of this video's recording, and she is a very hot topic because she is the first LD SSR that has been released into the game. Messiah's banner doesn't count because he was already in the game in beta, so people are freshly testing her out today. And I've tested her a bunch. I've seen streamers and other guild members and even people on my friends list test her. And I can say that I have a pretty good idea of how good she actually is. I actually have her, but let's talk about her skills in this interface very quickly. So basically she's a pure damage dealer. She has like a debuff in her S3 and a buff steal in her S1, but you're going to build her as a pure damage dealer. She has a Purify debuff from herself, which is very good. You can dispel all debuffs at level 3, which is very important. She has a crit rate up, which will make her easier to build. She hits 3 times, which automatically makes her a decent user of Revelation, and of course that defense down, which is a bonus. Next we have her passive, right? After you crit with her S1 or S3, you'll have a 100% chance at max rank to additionally cast your S1. So you can S3 into S1 guaranteed. Then after you S1, you'll have a chance of triggering the next cast, reduced to 60% of the current chance. So basically you can chain S1s over and over and over, and the chance gets lower and lower. So it makes her kind of an RNG character in a sense, because you can hit basically 5 times, 4 times, or like 8 times or 9 times, which is crazy. And it's a big variance in her damage, which is a big thing that we'll talk about. But it can make her literally do like 8 or 9 hits of Revelation in one turn, because her S3 does 3 automatically and you're guaranteed 1 right after. So pretty insane rolls you have to do, but if you do land it, you can see that you can get some really fast clears. Then we have her S1, single target attack, decent modifier on it, only hits once though, and you're going to see it has a chance to steal buffs. Very good because she hits so many times because of her passive that you don't really need effect accuracy on her, because she'll eventually like steal the buff because she's hitting so often. So this is my Yelli. You can see that it is very, very sad because I only have her S2 maxed. Most DPSs want everything maxed, right? Dieting's an SR, he pretty much wants everything maxed. Your S1 you can leave at level 4 for a lot of these characters that are DPSs, but a lot of DPS want their stuff maxed. If you look at Messiah, for example, another character, and that's mostly because you get a lot of stats from these nodes, damage, and damage is very important, even though it doesn't seem like it, because a lot of late game fights, like you're on the brink of death when you're clearing stuff, especially shells, so that 20% crit damage and that 15% attack can really matter. It's very, very, very important to have. And then of course you want your main ability, whether it be your S3 or S2 or whatever, to be maxed. For Messiah it's S3, for Dieting it's S2, and for Yelli it's going to be her S2 here. Now I don't have her on Revelation, but you definitely want to run her on Revelation and full damage if you have her. But the big thing with Yelli is she worth actually going for? Is she even strong? So I can tell you right now, straight off the bat, she's a very strong character if you max her out. There's definitely pros and cons to her. So the pros are that you're going to be able to potentially get the fastest clears with her because of that RNG in her S2, and it can do a lot of damage, especially on Revelation. A con about that though is you can, right? So there's RNG. If you get bad RNG in a fight, you might just fail because you lack the damage. Also, she's a very high investment character. Even though Messiah and Dieting want those skill ups for those stats, you want it on Yelli pretty much for sure. So you cannot play her without her S2 max. If you can't max her S2, you can't play her at all, because you need this max chance, because this is basically her bread and butter. And also on top of that, you really want her S3 maxed because it's at 4 turn cooldown. By reducing it to 3, you'll make it line up with the Revelations 3 turn. So it's very, very good to do and max. Also because it's a crit rate up buff for 2 turns, having it at 4 turn cooldown will make it so that's 50% uptime. So at that point you might as well have her at max crit rate instead of 70%, which is ideal if you have her maxed out on the S3. And if you have it maxed, it's a 3 turn cooldown and it's just 33% downtime, 66% uptime, so a lot better that way. And yeah, very important to also purify all those debuffs as well. Also, at this point, because you are using your S1 so many times because it's proccing off your passive, you might as well max your S1. It's very similar to Rosa, right? Rosa, you're maxing your S2, you're going to max your S3 because you want a 3 turn cooldown for Revelation, and then at that point you might as well start putting some stuff into your S1 for the damage multiplier because you're hitting so often with it, right? That's what most people do with Rosa. S2, S3 for sure, and S1 usually they do as well later on. For Yelli, it's pretty much the same thing, S2 and S3 for sure, and you usually want to start investing in your S1. So she's a very high investment character. You eventually do want to max out all her skills, and she's very, very RNG heavy, but it can actually make you run super fast in some shell runs and for Aurora as well, which makes her very flexible damage dealer. She's also the light element, so you can bring her in a lot of areas. She's extremely good in Aurora, like I just mentioned. She's extremely good in shells, Inferno. She's extremely good in like Phantom Theater, Union Boss, the Rumble event, Ethernet Rally. She's extremely good there as well. Just a very flexible damage dealer that's super powerful. The only thing is you really need to invest in her, and you really need good gear on her to make her work, and you really need Revelation to make her work. I think it's very hard to make it work without Revelation. Some people run her on Golden Lion for that extra effect accuracy, and also because you stack it very quickly so you get extra final damage. This is really up to you. Against tankier bosses, I think Revelation's better. Against squishier ones, you can make the argument for this, but I do think Revelation's just more consistent. So that being said, do pull for her. So if you guys don't have the lattice to max her S2 right away, I think you should just not pull for her right now and just wait a little bit more. If you guys do, then you can if you have all of the components to gear her. And on top of that, I recommend having enough to even max her S3, just because she is a lot different. So I saw my Yelli compared to other people's Yellis. Just because I have only the S2 max, it's a huge difference. Like having that skill cooldown reduction on S3 just feels required, honestly. I don't want to say it's required, but it feels like it. And the S1, because you're hitting so many times, it just feels like you need it, because it's a little bit different from Rosa, right? Rosa gets like the turn meter pushback, which is great, but not like the end of the world if you don't proc it that often. But the buff steal is super important for some bosses because you kind of need it, right? So a good point about Yelli is that you can bring her as a damage dealer, but also you don't need a buff stealer because she attacks so often that you'll eventually buff steal. But if you don't have her S1 maxed, you're missing out on double the chance. So it's a big, big deal. So this is why she requires a lot of investment. And you're going to see that she's used in a lot of areas where this is a thing. Now, you might pair her with other buff stealers, but as you know in Aurora, having more than one is very, very good. So if we look at like recent clears here, you'll see that she probably takes the spot of Rosa's here. Yeah, there she is. She takes the Rosa spot, and she's still paired with another Dispeller, but having more than one is usually ideal. You'll see that most people run more than one anyways with like Mia and Viper, but if you have her, you can actually slot her in instead of Mia, and you can just bring another support to actually make her do more damage. So where can I find it? So yeah, they replaced Mia with, I think it's Valerian, to make the team a lot more consistent, which makes sense. And then you can have her as another, substitute buff stealer in case Viper doesn't, keep up. And she does a ton of damage too, right? Of course. So that's very, very good. Also, you'll see that in shells, she's used pretty much everywhere, and lo and behold, she's gonna have the fastest clears right now, even though she just came out. And that's solely because of the RNG in her passive. If you get good RNG, you clear super fast. If not, you clear like normal speeds. It's going to be the same for Sharon here. You can see two people have the top 2 runs. And I don't know about Rengo Kutsu. I know for sure Hoyan is like, it's not good for her. But Rengo Kutsu, yeah, she's like number 4. And you can see these people have all their skills maxed out pretty much, except for the S1. Mostly because they want the damage. It looks like this guy has, yep, all of them maxed out. And you can see she is very, very investment heavy. So it's really hard for me to recommend pulling for her just because she does require a lot of lattices, and most people don't have lattices right now. But if you do have the lattices to spare because you were preparing for a big unit to come, this is one of the units that you can pull for and max out, and she will be amazing in PVE. If you don't have her S2 max, if you don't have her S3 max, she definitely feels a bit lackluster, and there's probably just going to be better options you can use. For example, you might as well just use like, what's a good example? Dieting here. Like Dieting is just better than her until she has at least her S2 and S3 maxed, just damage wise, for sure. Before you have her S2 and S3 max, you might as well just use Dieting. So at that point, it's like, do you even want to invest in it, right? Do you want to invest this much lattice to have a better Dieting? So yeah, really up to you to decide. I personally will say after I pulled her and after I latticed her a bit and after I've been playing with her and testing her, I'm going to say I kind of regret pulling her because I don't have the lattice to max her S3 yet. But if you do, or you do plan to build her in the future, that's also a thing, then definitely go for her because she's insanely strong and she is waifu AF. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you guys decided to pull her or if you guys plan to pull her, and also what builds you have her on and where you're using her. And make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe as well, and I'll see you guys next video.